What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Meet the Critters. We are on episode 28. We're going to keep this ball rolling. Like every day, it's like, oh, wow, I still have a podcast. Let's figure this out. So we're going to have a cool one tonight. I have been kind of on a kick about doing talking about cut sheets and trying to make it easier for people. I have a video coming out. I have been meaning to edit about a full breakdown of my pig cut sheet. I'm going to try and get that out tomorrow. But it's off of the whole pig, and I talk about everything. So we're going to do that. But to help talk about it today, we got Joe Blakesley. He's back.
How's it going?
Good. Been enjoying life, having fun?
Yeah. Always working steady on the butcher shop. So,
dude, it's looking fantastic. I get more excited every time I see like pictures of it. I'm like, it's almost there.
Yeah, it's way closer than the last time you've seen it. I just haven't been keeping up with posting pictures, and I've been so busy over there. But we're almost done with electrical.
Nice.
That passed last week. I'll probably have the water lines done early this week. Finally got some gravel for the driveway. Got the exterior doors installed, the exterior lights, exit signs. Picked up the hot water tank so I can get all the water lines done, and a bunch of other small things that I've been waiting for. So it's coming along pretty quick now.
Dude, it's crazy when all of a sudden you're at because I remember when we were building our shop, and it's nowhere near what yours is. I am so jealous of your shop already, and it's not even to full fruition yet. But there were moments like when the paint went up in there. I remember standing in there like, oh man, like when we epoxied the floors and everything. So it was like the first time, because we had to clear everything out, the floor with fresh, shiny epoxy and paint the walls. Walking into that room the first time, I was like, oh shit, this is a thing. Yeah. Like, I'm going to do stuff in here. So, like, I get those feelings every time I see all your update pictures of like, that's fucking awesome. Like, this is going to be.
It's getting more realistic now that doors are on and the a lot of the electricals are on. I'm still waiting for some of my 30 amp plugs to come in. I got the freezer fixed. I had to put a new contactor on that the other day. Got that running. So, got my wife on epoxy floors now.
Yeah. Sorry. They're awesome.
They are awesome. I don't want to
I love it because I don't have drains in the shop.
Yeah.
So I learned this from this shop I worked at in the southern part of the state for like a little while. And when I first started working there, like I was like, so where's your mop? And they're like, oh, don't we use a mop? But I'm like, okay. And he sprayed down the floor, put a bunch of bleach on it, took the scrub brush, scrubbed everything, and then rolled a shop vac out from the dish pit and just started vacuuming up the floors. And I was like, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen. And now that's exactly how I clean my shop because it's fucking genius.
Hey, if it friggin' works.
It is absolutely genius. That's a life hack if you have a garage with epoxy floors. It works fantastic. I used to badmouth it so much. I'm like, this is so stupid. And then by the time I left there, I was like, this is the most ingenious thing I've ever seen. Yep. I never would have thought of this on my own. How? Like,
but that's the stuff you pick up from all the little places you work, you know.
I think that's the coolest part about being a butcher, especially if you've worked at a bunch of different places, because you do pick up stuff. I mean, that's part of the job too. Like, if you're not learning something, you're not doing it right.
Yep.
Kind of thing. But like because I've cut meat at like 6 or 7 different places at this point. And there are things I do today that I definitely have picked up from some of those places, whether good or bad. Like,
yep. Yeah, I had to laugh because I was watching your roast tying video.
Yeah.
And I was taught by a left-handed guy that does it reverse. And everybody watches me. They're like, what are you doing? I'm like, it's just the way I was taught. That's how I learned how to do it. So instead of cinching your knot down, like most of the time
you cinch it up.
Yeah. It's just the way I was taught. I don't know any different. I mean, I taught myself the other way, but I always go back to the original way I was taught. So
yeah. No, and that's crazy. That's the craziest thing about all of it is who you apprentice under is insane.
yeah.
Like, because I do more, like the guy I was trained by to do whole animal stuff was Brazilian. Grew up in Brazil. His parents owned like a farm down there and a butcher shop.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then obviously he learned like when he came to the slaughterhouse that we worked at, they told him how they wanted it done, but they were like, however you do it, do it. So I do breakdown styles more like Brazilian cuts and stuff like that. Like I've noticed now watching more videos of like Brazilian dudes break down beef. I'm like, ah, all right. That's pretty cool. Okay. But yeah. So, but it's how different everyone is to get pretty much the same result.
Mm-hmm.
It's super fun. Like, and it's cool to figure it all out. Like when you look at other people cut, like that's what I said when it's like, if you're not learning something or at least changing your view on how you do a cut or something like that for your entire career, you're doing it wrong.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And I do that with everything, even like the farm stuff.
Oh, for sure.
I'm always changing different ways. If I see someone trying something different, I might try it. If it works for me, great. If it doesn't, I keep doing what I'm doing. And
right.
So
see, the way I do it is I just personally think I'm the dumbest person when it comes to farming. So that when other people go, that's really, really good, I just go, no, it's not. Like, I'm still figuring all this out. And they're like, shut up.
yeah.
You're doing great. I'm like, no. Lowers the bar. That way it's.
Yeah. So Tyler's on here.
Yep,
See,
Tyler's on here.
Chimed in earlier.
Yep. So, Cutsheets. They are an interesting beast.
Yes.
I have, sorry. It's one of those things where I've had a bunch of people like ask me about it at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And being a butcher for so long, explaining cut sheets to customers is easy for us, like in that situation. But they're not designed for people to fill out.
No,
most of them are not. Probably 90% of cut sheets are not like designed to just hand to someone blind and go, what do you want in your freezer? Because it makes no sense. It might as well be hieroglyphics unless you get a lot of animals produced or you've been trained in it in some way.
Yeah, and then it doesn't help too, like if you use multiple different processors, because everyone's cut sheet's going to be different to the way they cut. So
yeah, because it's the way I've always described mine is my cut sheets are designed in a way that I'm filling them out talking to the person about what they put in their freezer. It's not vice versa. Like you're not handing it to me and going, here you go. And unfortunately, I've had to do more of that lately. But again, it's with people who have been coming to me for a while and they understand how I fill it out, which is nice. But here, we'll pull yours up real quick. I love yours. I absolutely love yours.
So that's credit to my wife. She did all the hard work. I just I sat down on a piece of paper and I wrote down everything I wanted to see on it. So I knew what I was doing. And then she did all the, detail work. Don't mind our little homely looking cow up there. That's where our logo is going to end up. We just haven't got it back yet.
I got to tell you, when I first pulled it up, I looked at it. I was like, nice jersey on the cut sheet.
Yeah, she did it as a visual on there. So she knew like roughly where our logo was going
to be. But I got a good chuckle out of it. I was like, ugh, I think it's like 10. But I'm trying to figure out how to zoom in on this a little bit. I don't think I can. But I like how yours is broken down, where each section has its own kind of line.
Yes.
Where it is easier, because what these cut sheets are for are essentially is for the processor to be able to, at a glance, know what you want for cuts. Like if every 5 seconds we have to walk over and go, okay, and figure out your cut sheet, we're not going to be happy about it. So every butcher has their own shorthand and understanding of their process. So you may tell me that you want a 3-pound rib roast and the rest cut into steaks, but you want the bones Frenched and this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
I'm not going to write down everything you said. I'm going to mark 3 in the roast slot, 1.25 inches in the steak slot, and just like FR or whatever else needs to be. If anyone else looked at that, they'd be like, I have no idea what this means.
Yep.
But we do. Yeah. Trying to figure out how to zoom in on this.
Yeah, it is tough to see. Hopefully.
Yeah. All right. We'll pop it down and just talk about
it. Yeah, so one thing I wanted to see on my cut sheets that I don't see on a lot of other people's cut sheets, the part in there with the farmer's name. A lot of times you get just the customer name and their phone number, but being custom exempt right now, you get a lot of farmers that bring it in, they're selling quarters or halves of those animals.
Right.
I wanted to have their name and phone number on there in case I had questions, because like you said, a lot of times people screw up the cut sheets. And if you can't get a hold of the owner, it is nice to be able to contact the farmer and be like, look, this is coming in the shop like tomorrow. I need answers on this, this, and this. Either I need them from you or from your person, whoever purchased the animal from you.
Right. Yeah, so we just did that. So this is the back of mine. I couldn't figure out how to get mine on here. So I have like basically a little synopsis of us in the shop. And again, basically saying we're not responsible for we're responsible for processing the meat. We have no affiliation to it after the fact. Like it is what it you're coming to my garage for me to cut up your cow. This is it. Laying everything out for the person. But again, having name, address, telephone, email, so at that point I can contact them for anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So it's interesting. And then, so for comparison, this is my cut sheet. And this is just how I've, again, over the years of working different cut sheets and everything, of being able to, how my eyes just work to go over everything and break it down.
See, I'm going to have to learn my cut sheets a little bit. I set them up to make it as easy as possible for me to read them. But coming from a USDA shop that only did retail cuts, we very rarely did like whole half cows or whatever for customers. We utilize the same cut sheets there. They were just wrote out a little bit different, but so I designed mine to make it easier for me to read and understand. But it's going to be different because looking from a retail cut sheet to a personal cut sheet there is a huge difference in it.
Right. Well, it's also your eye gets trained to the sections of the paper because you know where the layout of your cut sheet is. So if you're going to look for a ham, you're not going to look at the opposite corner of the screen. Today, I will send that to you. You're not looking at it like the opposite corner of the paper because you know exactly where the hams are. So then you go to look at somebody else's cut sheet and you're like, I got nothing. I have no idea what you're trying to do here.
Yep. Yeah. So what'd you want to go over on the cut sheets? I
mean, kind of explaining it. So right now we both have our pig cut sheets.
Yes.
I figured us just tackling one at a time would be easier than going over because if I put up my beef cut sheet, we'd be here for another 2 hours.
Yep.
But no, just kind of like how they're broken into. So essentially cut sheets are broken down into subprimals. Whatever the bigger chunk that the steaks or chops are going to come out of, that's going to be a subprimal. So you got your hams, loins, butts, picnics, and bellies essentially on a pig. So in each one of those sections, there's going to be a line for roasts and steaks and grind right off the bat. Like you have to have something equivalent to those. And then again, like you get onto stuff like hams or the butts or whatever that could be like whole, like keep the whole thing together, especially when people are doing smoking with the hams and bellies and stuff.
Yep.
But like if you don't have that as a baseline, I think it's tough. Like you're gonna have a tough cut sheet because I've seen some where it's just like, would you want these people to write a fucking novel about what they want to put in their freezer? No, this should take a minute to like.
I've been considering doing like a mock-up cut sheet for each, and just so people can get on our Facebook page or whatever and look at it.
That's a great
reference. Idea. And then maybe have also with the mock cut sheet, because you probably get it just as much. I know I'm going to get it. Is well, what do you recommend? Yeah. What do you recommend? So I think I want to have a list of butchers' recommendations, like what we see frequently in our shops come through, what most families are going to utilize for roast size, or most family for steak thickness, or how many per pack, or what cuts they utilize the most and where. So
yeah, I know at this point I basically have like a well-prepared speech. Like there's a full section that I just basically repeat every single time I do a cut sheet, because it's, again, I don't want you to have something in your freezer that you're not going to eat. So what does your family eat, or what have you looked at for something? Because that's the new thing now, is everyone's on Instagram, and that's like, again, it's the double-edged sword of this new like insurgence back into like buying locally raised beef and stuff like that. It's amazing. But a lot of people are coming in from like Instagram and TikTok, which again, we're helping with.
Yeah.
But there are some outlandish ideas and cuts and stuff like that it's like, do you really want that? Because you're not going to eat it.
Yeah.
Like the Thor's hammers.
Yeah.
Granted, I have 2 in my freezer because I wanted to try them, but I've done a couple already. And I'm like, do you want to know how I know you're not going to do it? Because I still have 2 in my freezer from a year ago.
The ones to blame for that is the bearded butchers.
I know.
Oh, they love it. They love it.
I'm aware.
And don't get me wrong, I love their content, and I love watching them.
They're great. And honestly, I'm excited to do them.
They're a retail store, so they're cutting for retail customers. You know, that one customer's coming in, maybe ordering 2 of those or 2 tomahawks. You're not gonna freeze those things and then pull them out in 6 months.
No.
And you know, it just makes packaging a lot tougher. And
well, it's like I had someone get upset with me one time because they're like, I want tomahawks. I'm like, okay, that's fine. But they came and picked up, and I kept rib on for sure, but I probably only kept about that much. Because if not, I'm not going to be able to package it. I'm still packaging 1 per package as is. But if it's any longer, I'm not going to be able to package it. He was pissed. I'm like, hey, man, like, when are you really going to eat this? Like, this is a 2-inch with bone, like, tomahawk. Granted, it looks delicious, but it's also out of, like, an old jersey. Yeah. That's like, okay. I don't know. It's interesting. But also at the same time, that's how I started into cutting meat, is retail. Like,
same.
And all the crazy production, like the Florentines and the steak rolls and stuff like that. I miss doing that for sure, because that was
luckily we didn't have a ton of that stuff. We kind of kept it to the basics. Like, we do special orders for people, but here most special orders was like splitting the bones in half so they could get the marrow out for marrow bones.
Right.
You know, we did some pork wings, which nothing fancy. The tomahawk steaks, or we didn't. I think we had maybe 1 order of Thor's hammers, just from people seeing it online. They wanted to try it, but we didn't. Around here, we didn't have anything super crazy with retail. So,
well, I was at that, again, quote unquote gourmet, like steak tip house. So we had like 13 different flavors of steak tips, 6 different marinades of chicken and turkey, like bison steak tips, like, but then we also had all the kebabs, all the chicken breasts, like stuffed chicken breasts. We did Florentines. Like that's where I learned how to do that, like on a large scale. Was doing like all the steak rolls, pork rolls, all of that stuff. And there are moments where I look back and I'm like, that was freaking cool. Like I miss doing those because it's, again, you're back there. That's where it gets like artsy, and it's like, yeah, this is kind of fun.
Yeah, because all that stuff's about presentation. People,
right?
So many people eat with their eyes first. They look at it. If it doesn't look good, they're not even going to try it. So you get, you get the nice, evenly tied roast where every string's like the perfect spacing and all the knots line up perfect, and it just makes it look so much nicer having those things. So
that's why I still do the fancy tie, because I'm just, that's again, like that's just how my muscle memory is doing that.
But
yeah, then there are some like other sections of it, which they are a little more obscure, which again, if you just hand it to someone who didn't know, like they're not going to know what to do with the organs.
Yes.
Or like hawks, leaf fat. Like you're throwing out words they've never heard before if they've never bought a pig.
Exactly. I'm just trying to pull mine up so I can visually look at it.
No worries. I'm looking at mine too. I feel bad I'm not able to figure out how to zoom it in on this. Yeah, and then other than that, it's like whatever sausage flavors you have. I know on my pork one, I don't have any of these, but I know on my beef cut sheet, I'll have an area where it's like if you're getting stew or steak tips or how you want your burger packaged, and just kind of like the weights of them. So it's like if you want a 2-pound package of steak tips instead of a 1-pound package because you're going to eat it every time you pull it out, I'll pack them 2 pounds. But I'll do that with the stew and burger. But yeah, having a section of just like, here's this. I'm going to get these cuts from everywhere. It's not just out of one piece. Like, especially like stew.
Yes.
It's like, all right, I want 25 pounds of stew. I hated the people that it was like, I want 25 pounds of stew only out of the shoulder. And I was like, why?
Yeah.
I would love to see you stick your hand in one of the 25 bags of stew that you get
and figure out exactly what piece. Yep.
This is a piece of brisket. I wanted shoulder. And I was like, why? Because I gave you better stew meat?
Yeah.
Like,
exactly.
Yeah, I feel like we're just bullying people now with just like our inside butcher talk. It's like, come on, idiot, figure it out. This was not how I intended this helpful cut sheet episode.
Yeah, this is so helpful. Sorry.
I know. We're just making fun of you guys, and I apologize.
No, it's not. It's frustrating for us because we do it on a daily basis.
We deal with it on a daily
basis.
But
we're also trying to be helpful to people that are going to see this and they want to learn how to break down the cut sheet and figure out what we're looking for when we do, like, because we need to be a little bit more fast paced with what we're doing, building the shop the way we're doing it. So I can't take the time to talk to every customer about their cut sheet to a certain extent. Right. Because I mean, how much time's going into that. How much extra time do you spend a week, do you think, filling cut sheets out with customers?
It's usually about 10-15 minutes of standing there.
Yeah, like, per animal. Yeah, so that's a little bit, and then you get the one person that really doesn't understand it, and they have question after question. It's a half hour, an hour,
exactly.
Spent with that one customer. So that's why I'm trying to do like the butcher recommended cuts,
right,
sizes, stuff like that, and then maybe a mock-up cut sheet, so they can look at that first before. And you're still going to have the customers that are directly going to come to you and ask you, and they're not going to look at any resources that you've given them.
Right. But you're going to have that regardless. Yes. So if you can knock that down a little bit, that's fantastic. I'm still shocked the amount of deer customers I get that I go, all right, let's do your cut sheet. And they go, what? And I'm like, we've never filled out a cut sheet for a deer once in our lives. I'm like, why? Well, I don't know. Like, we just get what we get. And I'm like, no. Like, I'm not just a deer shop. Like, if anything,
Yeah,
people are upset I don't do more deer.
exactly. Yeah, we
So it's
have
like,
we've got the venison cut. We got all of our cut sheets done now. We're just waiting for that logo to get the
right,
finishing touches on them. But yeah, like we labeled in our office use only. She labeled
mhm,
that so they don't fill it out because, and I've done this too. I've been on the other end of this before I started processing, and when I first started raising animals and I was sending them other people's shops, and I didn't understand. Like I researched the cuts and what I wanted, but it's all trial and error. Do you like this more? Do we use this more than Now we know what we use and utilize. You get the first time customers, like you said, that's never bought a pig or a quarter of a beef or whatever, and they don't even know where to begin.
right,
So with ours, I'd say, like you said, each primal that we have on here, like we have shoulders, loins, our hams, bacons, the ribs on the pig,
right.
and the ribs on the beef on our cut sheets are different. So, when we get into the beef ones, we'll have to re-explain that. But and then the bulk sausage, hocks, and organs, like you said, it's all separate. But I think where people struggle is they don't know because there's so many options for each
Right.
primal.
And
They'll
see,
go
that's
through and be like,
where
okay, this all sounds good. And then you have every box checked off in that primal, and you're like, you can't get all
you
that from
can't
that.
do that. See, that's where I have a my bad because I don't have anything about ribs on my cut sheet.
Mhm.
But again, it's one of those things that it's built for me because at the
Yeah,
top of all my stuff, right after whatever the primal is bone in or boneless.
yeah,
So again, it's just butcher shorthand of knowing if you want bone in chops, you're not getting baby backs. But if you get boneless chops, you're getting baby backs.
yeah,
So it's not even, I almost don't even put it as a question. It's like if you get boneless chops, you are also getting baby backs.
yeah.
Like, because who's going to complain about meaty, fatty baby back ribs?
I don't eat ribs, so I usually just I
Grind them.
go. Yep, I go right through every rib, and I just
You're a
take out the
monster.
meat and grind them, or I just give them to my brother because I'll eat them if he cooks them, but I'm not taking the time to cook them. I
Right.
hate cooking ribs. I absolutely despise cooking ribs, and I love smoking stuff. It's just my brother. He has the chef experience, and
So
he's
he
good
just
at it.
does it.
So if
Yeah.
we're doing a cookout or something, I'll be like, here, you, and he's mastered cooking ribs. So, um, yeah, so that's a big thing for people to understand too is there's all these options. You can't get all of these options out of each.
Right.
Uh,
When it
yeah,
says the thing and it has the list of what's in it for cuts, that again, it doesn't mean you can get everything.
yes,
That's a list of what you can get, not all of it.
and honestly, I think the very first cut sheet that I filled out, I did that. I'm like,
Oh, of
that sounds
course.
good. That sounds good. That sounds good. And I just went through and I checked as much stuff.
Everything.
Yeah, and then
Um,
I'm pretty sure he called me. He's like, so what do you really want? Because you're not getting all of
right,
this.
because it's to put it in perspective, if you showed up to a butcher shop and handed the cut sheet over with every single box checked, it might as well be blank.
Exactly.
Like you've now just completely defeated the purpose of a cut sheet
Yeah.
because we have no idea what you want.
Yeah. So starting with the your front shoulders on a pig, our cut sheet we have our Boston butt and our picnics on there, and then
Right.
we gave them the option. You can get roast, you can get steaks out of those, you can grind them. They could do pork stew. We didn't. I don't think we put that on our thing, but if not a lot of people get pork stew, so I figured that if
Right.
they ask for it, I know I can write it
We
on the
don't
side
have
of the sheet.
we don't have one either because
Yeah.
it's I'm looking at mine on picnics. I don't even have like steaks as an option. It's roast or grind.
Yep. And then
Like
we also put smoked or fresh on picnics. You don't do smoked,
I
so
don't do
you wouldn't
smoke.
have that.
Right.
But we are planning on doing smoked products, and that's how I prefer my picnics. Is I always get them
That's a good idea.
smoked. Usually, if I have that option, I will take that option, just because it's a smaller.
Right.
You're not. I've gotten to the point too with hams, I don't recommend any of my customers to keep them whole unless they're going to have a huge family dinner,
Right.
because you get a 250-pound hanging weight pig.
Oh,
That is a massive ham.
it's a huge ham.
Yeah.
It's huge. Like,
So
I grind all my hams. If
yeah.
anything, I'll save the top round out of the ham,
Yep.
but that's it. Like, I, in my mind, have zero use for a whole ham. That's just sausage. Like,
Yeah.
because I'm going to use sausage. But it's one of
Exactly.
those things that this is how I'm hoping this is helpful. It's helpful if you're filling out a cut sheet and your butcher says that to you, because that makes sense. If you're buying a pig, you think, oh, I need ham. Like, that's what you get is ham out of a pig.
Mm-hmm.
No one's thinking about what they're actually getting. So if you have your butcher there and he goes, listen, how often do you eat ham? They're like, almost never. Okay, then you probably shouldn't get a whole ham.
Yeah.
Because I've seen the shock on people's faces when they show up and pick up a whole ham. And they're like, that's huge. I was like, yes, because it is a whole ham that's now completely frozen solid. So what would you like to? I tried to explain this to you in the first place, kind of thing.
Yeah, once we get into the process of smoking, I do usually, if people want their ham smoked and they don't want the whole ham, I usually recommend whatever size ham they want. I'll take off the bigger end.
Right.
For like a Christmas ham or whatever. Okay, we want a 5 or 6 pound ham. Okay, I'll take that off. And then I haven't found anyone that hasn't utilized ham steaks, a good cured ham steak,
Exactly.
because they're quick and easy. You throw them in the frying pan; they're already technically cooked. You get a good sear on each side, get them heated back up, and you can use them in whatever. We cut them up a lot of times, and we eat them with, mashed potatoes or mac and cheese or whatever. I mean, they go with so many different things. So there's a lot of options there. One thing I didn't put on the cut sheet that I've considered, depending on if people start asking for it, is giving them the option that I can smoke their hams and break down the top round and slice that into sandwich meat.
Yeah.
It's going to be a added cost because there's that much more work, but if they want that, they have that option.
Can I give you just from someone who's been in it for 2 years already? Save that for like 3 years from now. Like,
that's why it's not on our cut sheet.
I was going to say, I get it. And as you're saying it, I'm like, ooh, that is a great idea. And then I also know how busy both of us are. And I'm like, no, that's
I think that'll come more like if we start hiring employees and I've got extra set of hands that can, because sandwich meat is not a walk in the park to separate out, get your 1 pound packages, package it, and then vacuum seal it. It's that much more extra time. So it is going to be an added charge.
Oh, right.
You also need the extra help. So
well, that's one of those things. Like, I don't have link sausage on my cut sheets. Mostly because
don't either.
I don't do it. Like, I very, very rarely do it. But if you are, and this is just my shop, if you are a good customer who I know and I also know is not kind of like bat an eye at the price of it, okay. Because I charge $3.50 a pound to do link sausage. Because I'm like, do you understand? Like, because most people don't understand how much time it takes to do that on a smaller scale.
Yeah.
Like, let me put that in perspective. To people who are listening who have never processed an animal, it's a crazy large scale. But for me, who has worked in USDA facilities for so long and is now running a shop solo, it's smaller scale.
And I see that a lot. Like, I didn't really get into an argument, but I had to explain to people for another butcher shop that's local. They're great people. I've done a lot of business with these guys. And they were complaining about cost of deer. They don't process deer, but they take in boneless venison and turn it into smoked or cooked products or fresh sausage. And they were complaining about the prices. I said, look, and they were also complaining about not getting your own meat back because they do it in bulk.
Right.
You can if you take a certain amount. And I'm like, you guys don't understand when you take in thousands of pounds of meat and you're trying to keep every 5 pound batch separate.
It's impossible.
You'll never, ever get it done.
Right. Well,
you can't.
Yeah.
I mean, you
So
can. It's just that much more time it takes, and that much more employees, and
I
it's just
usually do.
it's a lot.
So last year I think I did about 30 deer last year,
Yep.
which in the world of deer cutting is a very low number. Like
Mhm.
that's not a huge number. But again, I only do deer for about 2 weeks. So I did 30 deer by myself in 2 weeks. Okay. But the way I try to do it, because it's written on my cut sheet, because I have worked for places that did mix,
Yeah.
and I hated it. Like I just felt bad about it. Because again, it wasn't a massive place doing hundreds of deer. We were doing like a couple a week, and he'd wait and grind everything together,
Oh
and
yeah, that's
that just stuck with me. Like again, like we talked about, different places you work, things stick with you. So I'll process 3 deer, get them all cut, wrapped, burger in the cooler, and then I'll grind those 3 deer, but do it to where it's like if one's
everything's
fresh
separate.
ground,
Yeah.
grind that one first, the next one sausage, grind it first. And I do all my venison sausage on a fine plate.
Yeah.
I think I personally have found it just comes out nicer.
Yeah, this year I'm not doing any fresh sausage or nothing just because I haven't had time to stock up on any fat or
Seasoning. Yeah.
seasonings or anything like that. But to answer Tyler's question, our goal is to be open in 2 weeks for deer season opener. We're still going to have finishing touches. We might end up having to run on a generator at that point
Oh
because
no.
our power pole has not come yet. It's all inspected. It's ready to go. Yeah, so we're getting there. I think it will be like probably 95% complete
That's awesome.
by that time. It'll be waiting for the power pole to come in and waiting for the rest of our gravel to show up, which I'm hopeful that it's coming early next week so I can get the driveway finished. But other than that, and getting the I-beam in for the trolley system. That's going to be the next big thing. And getting the rail system
Literally
put
and
in the
figuratively.
reefer truck. So we've got a few big things to do before that, but I've cut up deer in a metal carport for years. I'm pretty comfortable cutting them up in my half finished shop at this point.
Oh yeah.
Well, it's more than half finished now, but
Right.
that's the goal. I'd really like to get some deer running through there, get some cash flow going into the bank account, and hopefully in between that and starting our normal processing for pigs and beef, you can finish up any loose ends. And I figured the venison will also be a good test run for a lot of our equipment, make sure things are running right, because I can pull my tabletop equipment over there if something goes wrong and run people's deer through that like I've always done. It's not that big of a deal. I don't want to do that, but worst case scenario.
I used to charge people to just pull up to their house. I had a countertop that fit into the bed of my truck and a folding table and all of my wrapping stuff. And I would just show up to your house, cut the deer up in your driveway, wrap everything, and just be gone. Like I'd be there for a couple, and this was in the beginning, so it was taking me a while.
Yep.
So I'd be there for a couple of hours, like doing all of this. But it worked out. It was cool. Like I met a bunch of cool people because at the time I was still very, very new. Like I took my first job cutting up a deer with almost never cutting deer. Like I think I had helped on like 5. And I was like, yeah, I got it. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, that's one thing. I've processed deer my whole entire life, but it became it clicked once I learned everything else. They're all very similar in how they break down. It's just each individual animal I found, you have your different methods of doing it. But once I started working for the butcher shop, I had a buddy like, oh, you know how to cut up animals. You want to do a deer? That one deer turned into 20 deer the first season. And that's on top of my full-time job and my farm. So I put in like, I don't know, almost every single night after work, I'd come home, I'd do my chores, and then I'd work until like 1, 2 in the morning, cutting up people's deer, package it. And this is all, I started out with one of those little number 8 countertop grinders. And then I got like a number 12. And then I picked up one that's a little bit bigger. I think it's a number I can't remember what it is, but that one's been my go-to since then. I'm looking forward to not having to
Oh,
utilize the small, the
dude,
little
that's
vacuum
what I was just
sealer.
about to say. That's what's so nice about having just a monster grinder is, again, so there will, like, when I say there's no mixing, I'm not just taking everyone's meat and tossing it in together.
Yeah.
For anyone who's going to fact check that, there will be some leftover, like, in the horn of the grinder,
Yeah.
but it'll be like a quarter of a pound.
Yep.
But that's what's nice when you're grinding 30 pounds of sausage. Like in that Hobart, that's 30 seconds. Like you're running that through in 30 seconds. So you're able to really just kind of move through it. I talk about it like it's a pain in the ass, but it's really not.
But even with individual pigs, I'd like to get to the point where I'm doing 4 to 6 pigs a week on top of the beef. And you're doing, okay, say 6 pigs split into 12 different customers and they all want different kinds of sausage, and you got to keep all that stuff separate.
That's where it sucks.
Yeah, now you're okay. Do you keep the pigs from this farm separate from the pigs that came from this individual? And so everything has to be, but you also have to keep the flavors separate too.
Right.
So
and that's where it goes on to the butcher of just like their labeling style. Yeah. Like I have 4 pigs that were, I think the smallest one was 240 pounds hang weight that I just put through. I still need to do I'm doing the sausage tomorrow. But one of them was going to one person and he didn't want any grinds. He wanted everything in trim. So I cut everything in like 1-inch cubes because I'm assuming he's using one of those tabletop one, and packaged up it was a ton of burger. It was a ton of trim. But then those other 3 pigs are just going back to the same person. So in that situation, all of that trim goes in the same bucket.
Yeah.
Like, and this customer has some specific sausage he uses, but in any scenario where it's, even if those pigs are going to someone else, like all of the trim for those get ground together and separated.
Yes. That's what my plan is okay, I'll do each half individually and I'll weigh their trim individually.
Exactly.
And then I know, okay, this person wants, because we're doing 10-pound minimums because it's tough to do smaller batches like that. Okay, that person wants every variety of sausage, but they only got 30 pounds of trim or whatever, depending on the size of the pig.
Exactly.
It just makes no sense. So, okay, someone brings in 6 pigs from the same farm. They're all individuals. We're going to do the same thing. Right. All the mild Italian will get ground, packaged, and then, okay, we know this person has 20 pounds of this or 10 pounds of this, and then we'll separate it up separate. But then if there's different pigs from different farms, I'm going to keep that separate.
Exactly. So, that's what we mean by we don't mix.
Yes.
Like we're not doing 6 pigs from 4 different farms, but they all want sweet sausage, so we're just going to grind all those together.
Yeah, no.
Because that's just wrong. And I've seen that. I've seen that happen, especially with deer. Because again, you're dealing with a smaller quantity of grind.
Yeah, the butcher shop that I worked at, they did boneless venison like the other one that I was defending. Right. But the scale that we did it at that shop, there's no way you can keep 5 pounds.
No, there's no way you could.
I think the last year I was there, we took in over 100,000 pounds of boneless venison to make into cooked products.
At that point, I have zero issue with that. Like,
but
that's what you have to. Like,
but every bag of venison that came in, there was 2 or 3 of us that went through every single bag. Right. We trimmed, we checked everything to make sure because, we understood you do an awesome job on cutting up your deer. And then the next guy brings in complete trash, and then you don't want that mixed in.
The one that I vividly remember is we had a dude bring in gorgeous 10-point.
Yeah.
Like, and my boss gunned it out for him in the parking lot, brought it inside. And then the next one was like this thing that had just lived in a pine thicket its whole life and was almost like, it was a freshly killed deer. Like it was killed that day, but the meat was almost green and it smelled like a pine tree when you opened it up. And it was like,
Really? Yeah.
and my boss mixed that with 2 other deer.
Yeah.
And I was like, are you what? Like, and again, this is still at an apprentice level where
Yeah.
I'm still like, I know nothing, the equivalent of what I know now. And at that point, I went, that's not right. Like, that's not how that should work.
Yep. Yeah. Is for as long as we end up doing people's actual whole processing a deer, everything will probably be kept separate.
Yeah.
That
And
just
it
makes
should.
a
It's
lot
just
more
a
sense.
safety thing, too.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, you get someone that lets their deer sit around for 3 or 4 days before they bring it to you, and yeah, you don't catch an odor or something, it doesn't seem off with it, but then you run it through. I've seen where over that at that shop, you get a bat, it makes it through the checkpoint for some reason, but then you put it into a cooked product and you cook it and you mix in your seasonings and your cures, and for some reason it reacts with, and then your whole batch is shot.
Gone. Yeah. Smoking seems just like a whole nother level that I just honestly I'm not interested in.
Yeah, my thing is there's enough butcher shops around here that does smoking. I'm afraid that to get to the level that we are planning to be, if we don't have smoking, we're not, that's going to be that many customers that are like, we could just take it over to this shop that does offer smoking, or this shop or this shop or this shop.
Right.
There every butcher shop around us offers smoking that I'm aware of. I don't think there's any around our area that does not. So to be the only one, I think I'd lose customers in the long run by not doing that. But if you're in an area and you can save yourself the headache.
Yeah, like up here, I think there's one that I can that does smoking. Like one in like the level that I'm at of people that, and it's like, there's only one that does it, maybe 2. So it's just so much. Like, it's just so much more added on top of it. And again, it's one of those value added things that, once I have an employee or something like that where I'm able to do more, sure, we'll start venturing into it. But at the moment, I'm like, nah, we're doing what we're doing and we're doing good at it.
Yeah, that's just that much more we've got to figure out too, because, without a vacuum tumbler, a lot of that stuff, the bacons are a week, the hams are 2 weeks, usually 10 days to 14 days, in a brine cure. Injecting them will speed it up, which I do plan on injecting them to speed up the process. But the bigger the, chunk of meat, longer it takes to cure. So now you got people's pork 2 weeks instead of in and out in a week.
And that's just kind of it. I want to hold on to your product as little as possible.
Yes.
I don't want your stuff in my shop any longer than it has to be. I have no problem with it. It's fine. But I don't want to be responsible for it. That's kind of where it lies in that of just like, I'm going to do my job to its fullest extent. And then here you go. Then have fun with it. That's the beauty of custom exempt.
Yeah. Yeah. We've got a lot of stuff to figure out. And like, I think the first month or two, it'll probably be, I'm going to start slow, figure out the equipment, figure out routine is going to be the big thing. And then slowly add as I go from there.
Yeah, that's going to be the biggest thing is just going.
Venison, I know what I can do with my tabletop equipment, the everyday equipment. So I'm hoping to like hammer out as many deer as I can. Just, get our name out there, advertise. So
you'll be fine, dude. You're gonna have to advertise once, and it's just gonna blow up.
Yeah, we've got quite a few people waiting to already book dates. So
yeah, it's again I have people be like, dude, you need a sign out front. I was like, no, I don't. I sure don't. They're like, why? I was like, I booked out till next year. I have people call me daily, and I'm like, sorry, like. I am genuinely sorry, but I can't, or else I'm gonna die. Like,
yeah. We've got. I'm hoping to start booking dates probably for other people middle of January, maybe a little bit later. Just because we're gonna run some of our own stuff through for test runs. Like we got plenty of our own pigs.
Right.
Our business partner's got beef that he wants to run through. He's got another customer that's got beef. So right off the bat, I've already got 9 or 10 beef lined up to go through. I've got my 9 feeder pigs. So I've got plenty to give everything a test run because I want to make sure that everything's running properly between venison and our own animals, that then I feel comfortable. Okay, I know that the cooler system's working fine. I know the freezer's working good. I know my equipment's not going to break down in the middle of cutting up a beef and have to call the customer and be like, hey, sorry, but this is the situation. That's not going to be a good look on a brand new business. So
it's tough because it happened to me. I know it's tough. Like coolers going out or just whatever. It sucks.
Yeah, at this point, we don't even have a cooler right now. We got the reefer truck we're trying to utilize. So,
yeah, when you're a new business, especially like, again, I feel like especially a butcher, like this is such a weird niche to like get into that if you're good, you're going to stick out. And if you're good to your customers, you're going to stick out even more. Like if you're upfront and honest with your customers, because I feel like butchers are one of the least trusted small businesses out there.
They are.
They absolutely are.
Every butcher gets bashed for.
And I'm here to tell you, it's for good reason because a lot of people suck. Like they really just do. Like I know, the people that pop up, especially during deer season, that's just like, I'm a butcher shop. It's like, okay, like have at it.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, we're coming up on an hour here. I saw this message from Rachel. Oh, it wasn't this one. It was this one. So I kind of teased earlier in the week that I had a bit of an exciting experience slaughtering some pigs on, I think it was Tuesday. I was very lucky that my neighbor came down the road and gave me a hand because I had 4 pigs that all 4 of them hung out over 100 or 240 pounds. These were big old pigs.
Those are nice pigs right there.
They were nice. They were super nice. The first one I was able to knock out on my own, just with the 410 in the somewhat open space of the corral.
Mm-hmm.
But luckily, my buddy was there for the last 3 because they were the bigger ones to be able to utilize the squeeze gate. And for those who don't know, I have I think it's about 12 by 12 corral next to my pig pen that when people drop off pigs, I can back the trailer in, have the pigs go in and slowly close a gate with a stall mat attached to it. And I can push them into the corner so I can get a safe, secure shot every time. Like instead of trying to line up a shot from 6 feet away, I'm standing directly over the pig and I'm able to dispatch it super quick. So first 3 go down without a hitch. Naturally, it's the last one. Pain in the ass to get off the trailer because now he's not bouncing off of other pigs. He's just in there alone. Finally get him out. Tough getting him into the corner because he's smelling the blood of his 3 buddies that were just in front of him. Get him into the corner, drop him. I'm like, all right, cool. I have like a little board set up with my knives and where I'm putting stuff while I'm doing everything. Walk over, put my gun down, grab my knife, and as I do that, I turn and he starts funky chicken, like doing the funky chicken on the ground.
Yep.
This thing was 2 feet off the ground. Like he was just flopping himself and pushes the squeeze gate back. So now we're in the back corner away from the gate with a 400-pound pig flopping 2 feet in front of us. And I still haven't bled yet. Like it was just enough time that I bounced back and forth with it. So I'm standing there for a minute. I'm trying to like hold the hawk down with my boot, like try to get there. And I'm like, this isn't happening. And I have a boning knife in this hand and I just jumped on the pig. Like I essentially just started riding it English style. Like I just sat down on it. Now I'm on this 400-pound pig that's trying to flop 2 feet in the air and I still have to bleed it. So now I'm hovering, trying to make sure I'm in the right position, get it bled. But in getting in position, I had leaned too far back on the pig.
Mm-hmm.
So now I can't just lurch forward. So now I'm riding the pig because I can't get off. I have to throw the knife because, again, I still have a 6-inch boning knife like over here. Had to throw the knife and then grab the gate and pulled myself off. And I just went up and went, whew, and I just wiped my pants off. And I look and my buddy's just like, what? Like, what did I just watch? Like, what is happening?
We just last weekend me and my brother killed 2 pigs for my old boss, and one of them did that. And I hate when they do that. You can't get a hold of them, and
It's
they're
awful.
just flopping around, and you're trying to bleed them. And it helps. Like, I'm sure in the butcher shop, like when we stun pigs in the USDA shop, you instantly shackle them and yank them up so that you have control over them. When you shoot them in a corral or something, you don't have
that control. And like, without exaggeration, that's just 400 pounds of tensed up dead weight.
Yep.
Just coming at you. It is an interesting experience. I was talking to my wife about it because I was like telling her the story. And I was like, there are moments, especially in this job, where it's like, we do this every day or like with regularity. So we do become desensitized to it. So I'm like, oh, that's just another day. I didn't realize how insane that was until I saw my buddy. And he was like, what?
Yep.
Like, or I won't know something's really weird or crazy until I tell another buddy, like text them like, oh, this just happened. And they're like, what are you talking about? This is a Tuesday at like 9:30. What did you just do? Like,
I was laughing when you were telling all of us on Telegram about that. Like,
and once I realized what it like after that, I was just like, I didn't film that. I had none of that. Like,
that would have been like, that might have been a viral video.
Well, then after I had that thought, I was like, it doesn't matter if I filmed it. I couldn't post it anywhere. I can't post a video of skinning out a pig, let alone stabbing, let alone jumping on and stabbing a pig in the neck.
You need to get like you're going to have to set up
everything deleted immediately. I just get blacklisted off everything.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of the YouTube channels I see are doing the Patreon videos, right, where they show the whole process.
I think so. I think I might be venturing into that. I don't know. I want to get a little bit bigger. I'm almost at 500. I forget what I'm actually at, but I think I'm pretty close to 500. And I am 5 away from 1,000 on TikTok. So if you are listening or watching and you have TikTok and you do not follow me, do your duty. Get over there, please.
Maybe I'll set up a TikTok just to follow you on there.
I appreciate it. Listen, you will, out of anyone, you will appreciate it. I am having way too
My
much
wife
fun
shows
with it.
me all the videos.
Oh, yeah. I was talking to somebody about it today. I did a bit of a deal with somebody on TikTok, and I think we're going to be doing some collaboration videos and stuff, and they're going to be buying pigs off us in the spring. So I was like, cool, perfect.
Nice.
But completely lost where that story went. I got completely sidetracked off that one. Gone. But no, TikTok's just freaking nuts. But I was talking to him about, I love his content because he is just like, he's a dad that lives in New England. And that's what his entire TikTok is him just making fun of New England in the funniest fucking, like, just random, TikTok is so fucking weird. I can't even describe it. Like, just the references used to describe states of New England is absolutely insane. It's super funny. What is it? It is New England Dad on TikTok. So go check him out. He's friggin' hysterical. But I couldn't post his content. Like, I couldn't, like, it's different. Like, I will include the kids sometimes, but it's also I've somewhat put myself into a corner of just really, really, really dark like humor. So it's like when I do post picture like videos with my kids, I have to make it as bubbly as possible to counteract like the
dark
other
humor. Yeah.
the dark humor. Like it has to be, I'm actually a good person. Look how adorable my kid is with these pigs. And then Planned
That would
Parenthood.
never work out in my favor because my kids like your kids at the very worst time. I have to tell this story. The other day, kids come out, Dad, I want to carve pumpkins. All right, when I get done with chores, they'll carve pumpkins. And I hear both my kids out there tee-heeing, ha-ha, giggling. I'm like, what are they doing? I come out with feed buckets and I'm taking my truck. My son's in the front yard. We're right on like it's not a main road, but it's well-used road. Pants down around his ankles, hands behind his head, shaking his thing around, and they're both laughing. I'm like, what are you doing? We have brand new neighbors across the road. Never met them yet.
Yes.
And my daughter goes, well, he just had to pee, Dad. I'm like, that was a lot more than pee. And I said, get inside. I'm like hollering at him. I said, you're not carving pumpkins tonight. I was so mad. I'm like, that's the last thing I need. But it's just, that's how my kids are. They are goofballs and love them to death. But I would never be able to make those bubbly videos because one or both of them will end up doing something in the background.
Right.
That will just completely throw it off.
Yeah. No, we were over at my buddy's house, and she had to go to the bathroom, and he was going inside, and I knew his wife was inside. We hang out with them all the time. And he's like, I'll take her. Like, I'm like, all right, fine. Brings her inside. He comes out, and he's just, like, real bashful. And I'm like, what? And he goes, I brought her into the bathroom, and she goes, he was like, you know how to do this, right? Like, just as a joke. And she goes, yes, I have a vagina and Dada has a penis. So, and this closes the door in his face. And he came out white as a ghost, like, I didn't realize I was going to be having that conversation today. I was like, yeah, she's pretty anatomically accurate on what she's talking about. Her dad's a butcher and her wife's a nurse. Like,
yeah. Yep.
Oh, they're savages, but I love them. Well, Joe, where can everyone find you?
Blake's Lakers on Facebook or YouTube. I've been trying to link the email to them too. So if anybody just wants to directly contact us, it's probably the best way with any questions or anything like that. I'd like to get more comments and stuff on some of my videos also. Try to interact with viewers more. I have not put out a video this week. I kind of slipped up, but just been crazy busy trying to hammer out the shop while I have semi-decent weather besides the snow we got this week. But yeah.
Awesome. And if you're watching this live right now and you're not subscribed to this channel, go ahead and subscribe to that. If you're listening, you can go over to YouTube at BackwoodsButcher603. We've got butchering content. We got farm content. We got wild game content. We're kind of running around doing everything. And also all of these podcasts are on there as well. You can also follow us on TikTok. We chatted a little bit about that earlier. I'm almost at 1,000 subscribers, which once I do that, I can start going live. And I'm planning on doing some lives right out of the shop, which will actually be pretty cool because it'll be right in the middle of deer season where I'm going to be running around like crazy anyway. So I might as well film it. Why not? So stay tuned for that. And then again, just super dark humor and things that 1 out of 10 people will understand and laugh at. But if you're one of those 10 people, you're going to lose your shit. And then other than that, it's at BackwoodsButcher603 again on Instagram and Rumble. So,
and the podcast is also streamed on a bunch of the other.
Yep, podcast is Spotify, podcast app, Chrome, Fountain.
Yep.
Pretty much everywhere you get podcasts, we're there, which is again insane to say. But I gratefully appreciate everybody watching and listening, and I hope we all see you next time.